Just a quick update from my end, primarily for my long-term subscribers to my channel. There aren't too many of you left, and perhaps to some newcomers, just to explain a little bit why I haven't made videos for almost 2 months now. Um, it's kind of difficult to explain. On the one hand, I feel that um, Google, YouTube, whatever you want to call it, is basically turning into just another television commercialized medium. All of us saw this coming a long time ago, so that's no longer news. And I would be hypocritical to say that I was going to leave YouTube altogether because it's all trash and all that stuff, because I'm still in contact with people on YouTube here. So yeah, all of us are a bit hypocritical, which actually brings me to a larger issue in terms of human hubris and the hypocritical stances in general. I really don't believe that there is any human being on earth that is not at some point hypocritical or represents some sort of hubris. This is sort of the story of humanity overall, and so none of us are free of that notion that we are somehow in any way speaking from an purely objective perspective. I've listened to many videos here on YouTube, intelligent bloggers, people who really try to make good arguments, and I've listened to all of them. And I've come to the conclusion, basically, that some of these arguments I will reject because I'm simply, employing critical thinking. Some of them I will entertain because I'm employing critical thinking. And so I don't want to be too vague about my channel here, since it's basically running on its last legs anyhow. So let me just say from the very start, my channel was basically started out with political opinions. It started out with because of a YouTuber named The Sludge Report. Okay. I essentially viewed his videos for quite some time back, 6-7 years ago. And I felt his opinions were valid. And I got into this whole political thing in the United States. I agreed with many of his opinions, and still do, by the way. And so this is how my channel basically got going. It started out essentially as a political channel. Well, as time went on, I met more people on here. I came across, a broader spectrum and so on. So my interests, as they always have been, are not just in politics. They encompass a whole range of things. And I'm not an expert in anything, just like many of us aren't. And so, basically what my channel was about is expressing, my own viewpoints, trying to bring that across to others, and not trying to be too confrontational whenever I could avoid it. Okay. I wouldn't exactly call myself a complete pacifist, because I do believe in the idea of self-defense. I also believe in trying to solve problems without getting too aggressive about it. But there comes a point, when you have to take a stand on something. And this is just something I have to do, not because I'm, all knowing about all subjects, but at some point you have to make certain decisions as far as your viewpoints are concerned, and that's always that has always been the case with me. So I've never been shy about expressing my viewpoints on YouTube. But since I haven't said anything, especially in the political realm for so long, I just want to update some of my subscribers, long-term subscribers especially, on my current stance or standpoints in terms of U.S. politics, and also on some wider issues as well. So number one is that I no longer belong to any political party whatsoever here in the United States. I believe that both the major parties and the fringe parties are not exactly representing any broader viewpoint whatsoever. There is party politics in America is completely broken, because what is considered as mainstream anywhere else is considered the fringe here in America. So there isn't any broad debate going on at all, especially when it comes to the mainstream media. And so I will not say that I'm anti corporations, anti-capitalism per se, but the kind of capitalism we have here is not even capitalism. It is basically a new kind of feudalism, feudal semi-fascist society that we live in. And so, no, I'm not going to go along with that. And my focus, when I criticized, I remember now, I voted for Obama, right, in the first election, not in the most recent election. And like many other people of progressive persuasion, I was duped. I admit it. But I can no longer have that excuse now, because the way the country is going is basically further and further to the right. There is not even a notion of left-wing politics left here in America. And before you start criticizing me about being a left-winger and all that, basically, I would be considered a centrist anywhere else in Europe, for that matter, or, in some other countries, okay? So this entire notion that Obama is some sort of a left-winger, a socialist, or a communist is completely laughable, okay? Obama is a puppet for international finance and international conglomerates. He has found his calling by acquiescing to those powers, and he's trying to convince everyone else in the country that, he's acting in a somewhat moderate way. I'm no longer convinced of that, so that's the end of that story. And I've never voted for any right-wing policy in this country ever, and I won't in the future. In fact, I see voting as basically a lost cause. If you think that we're still living in some sort of a democracy, I think you're very much mistaken. And, libertarians and so on will come back and say, well, whatever. This country was never set up as a democracy. It's a republic. You know what? It's silly, okay? If anybody believes that you can completely function without any kind of government whatsoever, and just everybody does as they pleases, and let the free market reign, whatever, there is no such thing. There's never been such thing on the entire planet. It is about power structures. People will get into power one way or the other, and they're going to exercise their power as long as they're being supported by the majority of the population or by suppression. And here in the United States, it essentially functions as a tolerated system so far. It's still, it's still tolerated, as anyone can tell, except for a few dissidents like myself and others, who have stopped believing in the system altogether. Now, this does not mean that I am anti-government as a form of principle, so to speak. I do believe that there needs to be a government. I do believe government's functions should be not as broad as they are. But on the other hand, nobody can function without people coming together and making decisions about how they want to live. And that is called government. That is government. Whether you want to call it tribal government, self-government, whatever you want to call it, everybody just doing what they want to do because they want to do it, is not going to work. It has never worked throughout human society. Now, another thing I want to mention about my channel is, as you may have noticed, some of the videos that I featured on my channel, they have focused on perhaps atheism or non-belief in a God. Okay? So I'm not trying to push this on anybody. I'm pretty tolerant as far as religious beliefs are concerned. But on the other hand, I want to make it very clear that I don't want those beliefs pushed on me in any way, shape, or form. That is never going to happen. The simple reason being is that I tend to have some critical thinking cells left in my brain, and that no religion of any kind, organized religion of any kind, makes any sense to me whatsoever, and never has. Now, you will see, in some of my favorite videos, of course, people who have made videos against religious zealots of any kind, and I applaud those videos, and I stand behind the video makers who are making those videos. So I applaud Aaron Ra for his entire series regarding, the premises of faulty premises of creationism and all that bullshit. I think Aaron Ra did a great job. I also think that he is doing a great job on the local level in Texas, which is not an easy thing to do, I might add. And even though, my own field, when I was first, starting my true educational route, was essentially centered around the arts and the humanities, I am a big believer in science. And to this, I want to add that, of course, science is not a religion. Science is in no way a dogma. Science, in other words, has been misunderstood by a lot of people in this country. Science simply means trying to discover things, trying to go after what is real. This doesn't mean that science is infallible. As a matter of fact, it finds mistakes amongst scientists themselves all the time. But the difference between science and religion is that science actually admits when they're wrong. After enough evidence has been gathered to the contrary. In contrast to religion, which is, always behind the times, always, Even the Catholic Church had to admit that evolution is actually, well, you know what? If you don't understand the concept of a theory and the difference between a theory and faith, then even the Catholic Church had to admit, hey, we were wrong. We were wrong about all this. We were wrong. And so are many other religions. So I'm not a religious person. I never have been. I never will be. And I respect, ancestral beliefs, all that kind of stuff, as long as it is not pushed on me. Okay? We humans are too damn fallible to understand the whole truth, so help me God. It is completely beyond our capacity. So, when I hear, somebody like Lawrence Krauss, for instance, speak, and when I hear his defense of science, to me, this is not an arrogant person. He admits his own mistakes. And as far as, the corruption of science versus any other kind of corruption is concerned, as far as the corruption of science, the only thing I'm concerned about here, as far as science is concerned, is the corruption of money into science. Now, I do believe that is a legitimate concern, and that is something that some scientists tend to disregard, although not all of them. Many scientific committees have been stashed since the age of Bush by anti-science agendas and anti-science people, Intelligent design is nothing more than a revamped version of creationism. You can look all this up on the internet. And, of course, you don't trust the internet, but I mean, it has such a long history by now. There's absolutely no doubt that creationists are pushing the Discovery movement, the Discovery Institute, and all of that. These are all the same people. The intelligent design is nothing but religion cloaked in some sort of scientific mantle. So I will come firmly down on the side of science as far as intelligent design is concerned. When I hear some of these, fundamentalist Christians and fundamentalist Taliban or whatever other religion is out there, in the age of, we're in the 21st century here. And to even have this debate is completely ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And this is not to say that scientists are always good people, that they always stand behind good moral issues or anything like that. No, but I tell you what, science, you wouldn't be on the internet without science right now. And whatever flaws it has, which are constantly being revised and directed, religion, in my opinion, is even worse. Because it makes you believe in fairy tales. It makes you believe in some sort of a 2,000-year-old book. And this is the only evidence that exists, so-called evidence, in which, even religious scholars, people who go to seminary, discover that this is not the word of any God. This is a word written by men, fallible human beings who made up stories in order to shore up some sort of belief system that they had. It's nothing more than that. So let it go. Let it go. And recognize that we're all human, we're all fallible. And anything else is hubris. In terms of the recent debate, which is ongoing, of course, it's nothing new, with this anti-abortion movement, this anti-science movement in America. This is really damning, as far as I'm concerned. It is stupidity such as this which I have to speak out against. Now, Richard Dawkins and several other scientists might be a bit arrogant when they start talking to these creationist people. But you know what? Somebody has to speak out against this bullshit. And I will be willing to speak out against it as well. Because I'm not just going to sit here and take these, fucktarded belief systems that tell me that that life begins at conception. This is just laughable. Because if you see what life is, actually, you know what? A single sperm cell is life. And that's without conception. An egg cell is life in and of itself. And I just have to call bullshit when I see it. And that's going to be, maybe perhaps the focus of my channel for a little while. And then I'll move on to some other subject. But this kind of thing has to be fought. I mean, idiocy has to be fought against. And I really want to support what Dark Matter, the cartoonists here on YouTube, and Aaron Raw and several other scientifically minded people are doing. And I'm saying this as an artist, okay? I'm saying this as a creative person who thinks about the possibility of, I'm not dogmatic about this kind of stuff, who thinks about, human interaction, who doesn't think that there is some sort of an overriding dogma out there, or that there needs to be one. We're all human. Our own psychology, as per evolution, by the way, drives us towards certain inclinations. To like people, to dislike people, and it's probably all in this survival game. And there's really nothing much that we can do about it, But it's such a long video here. But, I used to have friends on here on YouTube, which I've sort of, we sort of had some different opinions about all this. But in the end, it's no reason to be enemies. I mean, while we're here on this planet, we're all trying to survive as best as we can, and that doesn't mean we have to bash each other's heads in. So this is why I kind of got discouraged with this whole YouTube thing, On the one hand, confirmed atheists here on YouTube are saying, we're saying, well, it's not such a good thing, though. Everything's going to hell, and then they're having babies. Okay, that to me makes no sense, basically. So in other words, yes, you're admitting that you're just human. So we don't always act logically. And on the other hand, people who have lived in other cultures are coming back and saying, no, this is the only culture that counts, and we're right, and nobody else can. We're right, and you're wrong. And I'm tired. I'm completely tired of all these arguments. You know, most people on this planet just want to live in peace. They want to make a living. And I will readily admit that most Americans live beyond their means. Okay, completely beyond their means. When you look at the global picture, okay. Our civilization, all this hoopla, all your iPhones, everything else that we consume, okay, has been built because we were able to dominate the resources of other nations. That has to be acknowledged somehow. And so we can't keep going with this, you know, conspicuous consumption of ours. You know, that doesn't mean we can't own a computer, but it does mean you don't have to buy all the latest technology out there every 6 months just in order to be a slave to technology and science. There's got to be some sort of a balance. So, you know, I've been very disillusioned making any videos on YouTube because no matter what you say on here, you're always going to be attacked for something. But I did want to make it clear that I'm not going to compromise on certain ideas when it comes to completely idiotic beliefs. Creationism, the entire notion that this planet is 6,000 years old and that some God created humans the way they are now and that they're not related to other animals is complete bullshit, and it is a lie. And anybody on my channel, you're free to comment on that, you know. Anybody who even believes in that doesn't even deserve a comment from me, or from anybody else for that matter. You cannot deny the reality around you. Now, some people might say, well, we might all be living in some grand matrix and some grand illusion or whatever. Well, guess what? You know, that's the only illusion we have. And we're only here on this planet once. And once our lives end, and this is my firm belief, it ends. It is over. What else do you want? Why would you even want anything more than this? Isn't that in itself this belief in immortality or something like that? Isn't that in itself a very selfish notion? I think so. I think so. So I guess that concludes my video. I don't know how long, 30 minutes or something now. So feel free to comment back or whatever. I'm really not sure how much longer I'm going to be on YouTube. You know, I guess it all depends. But I wanted to touch base with some of my regular subscribers. Those of you who are still on here. Many of them have left. So, and I can't blame you. So. Anyway, good night for today, or good night for tonight.